Okay, with us to review the papers once again are Mary Ann O'Cotter and Edward Adu. Thank you very much, guys, for sticking with us. Lots to get through, actually. And Edward, let's start with you, because this story, goodness me, where do we start? So a Lib Dem councillor has basically tweeted about the ULEZ scheme, but in a way that, well, is quite offensive to many.
Yeah, basically, because for people who have obviously opposing views to ULEZ, he said basically, I'd gas opponents of ULEZ. I mean, when I came across this story, I was shocked, because regardless of anyone's view, no one should ever say something like that, especially if they are a representative or politician or council, any of that ilk. And also, he wasn't suspended. Now, no. I'm slightly concerned about this, because obviously ULEZ is a contentious issue. It's a debate whether you're for or against it. It's become toxic in some senses. But regardless of anyone's view, I mean, to say that. I put it on social media that let me just read out what he said. He said that, well, ULEZ campaigners should be suggested that they should be gassed with carbon monoxide. I mean, it's beyond belief to think that anyone would even go there. Alan Miller, who is the founder of the Together Group, he's organised meetings in Edinburgh and sort of an anti-ULEZ meeting, saying, well, look, it's more or less people should have their own views, and he's let the party down. Now, I'm sure. Obviously, they said they're not going to take it forward.
But he's apologised, and they want to move on from it. But you would think that someone in this day and age would have social media etiquette, and that's the issue at hand.
I think the bottom line is it's down to common sense. Yeah. Just doesn't say things like that.
Yeah, he should have learnt from that. Mary Ann, the Daily Mail are talking about, and I'm being sarcastic here, post-Brexit benefits here, that travellers will face longer queues, and perhaps these are some of the benefits, but I'm being a bit naughty. Take us away with this story in the Mail.
I'm going to be a bit naughty too. So I've very much enjoyed the Daily Mail's front page today. Holiday chaos fear over EU Big Brother visas. As Brussels finalises controversial scheme, etc., etc. It's stubborn Brussels bureaucracy holding things up. Well, yes, because we chose to leave the EU, and so now we're a third-party country. And so, yes, indeed, there will be border checks that will be onerous and time-consuming and have an impact on both holidaymakers and businesses who need to travel or move goods. I don't know where the news on that one is, but they are very, very outraged, which I did enjoy. So basically, the actual news bit of the news is that by, I think, 2025, it will be introduced, sorry, this time next year, so yes. Summer 2024, it will be introduced that we will have to have a permit to travel. So that might involve fingerprint and face scanning when you're going through security barriers, and also a permit in your, effectively like a kind of a visa. That will last either 3 years or for the length of your passport until its expiry date. Yeah. Now, the big question is, these systems were set up for airports where there's lots of biometric scanning. But the question is, how does that then get implemented at somewhere like a ferry terminal or a carport where you're driving your car onto a train, where people, would they have to get out of their vehicles, every single individual?
Well, we're seeing delays, aren't we, at Dover? Currently, we're seeing long delays, reported 2-3 hours, as 35,000 people pass through Dover at the weekend. So there will be repercussions for travellers, for sure.
Absolutely, and there's kind of the infrastructure isn't set up to process that number of people in this kind of way. So the way that the staffing of these border sort of facilities, the way that timings for airlines, for ferries, for rail freight, all that stuff will need to change, and the clock is obviously ticking. And there will, of course, be an impact on the economics for UK PLC. But folks, that's what we voted for. So we've got to suck
That's
it up.
what we're going to get. Edward, should we take a look at the Sun on Sunday? Because this is all about the Energy Secretary, Grant Shapps, saying, look, I've had bank accounts closed. And he's, as in his words, sort of saying he and his family have been the victim of this woke policy.
And the thing is, I was going to say that I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want my bank account to be closed down, but it makes you think, what is the criteria? And I mean, even for the Energy Secretary, Grant Shapps, to say that he's been a victim, not just him, obviously Nigel Farage and Gina Miller as well, and to quote, the reason why he was vetted or was turned down was because he was a politically exposed person. Now, when anyone opens a bank account, you think it's about somewhat your credentials or what you have to put in your account, and you will not be scrutinized. I think questions will be asked as to how banks are operating and as to how they are vetting certain people, because it seems from what we've heard with all these recent stories connected to Farage, DeMiller, and now Grant Shapps, that certain banks may be whether they're kind of adopting woke policies or whether they're just really being blatant and stringent and saying, well, look, because you may have your lines may be politically aligned in that area or in that context, then we don't want you to be. We certainly don't want you as a customer.
And we're hearing lots, aren't we, about these big names, whether it's Nigel Farage or the Energy Secretary. The test will be, I suppose, ordinary people and their stories, and if they start to emerge.
I've heard loads of stories from friends who have said, friends of friends who are Muslim, who haven't been allowed to have bank accounts purely because of surname or because of the assumption that they may be connected to terrorism or something. I mean, if that's the case, then I think the whole thing should be investigated, and they should really look into how banks are operating and how they're reaching out and well, not reaching out, or how they're vetting people, because I think this story, I think there'll be more cases to come.
Indeed. Marianne, I just want to end, we've got literally 60 seconds, but this is a story about scientists seeking out cosmic dust on the roof of cathedrals. Take it away.
Okay, so what scientists are doing are looking for tiny grains of dust, some which are older than our solar system, so up to 7 billion years old. And this dust basically is all around us. It's on our clothes, it's in the air. But on a cathedral roof, it collects, obviously, hundreds of years and doesn't get impacted. So they've been sweeping it up with the span and brush.
We're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. This is Sky News Breakfast. Guys, we'll have you in the next hour. Stay with Sky News.